The underestimated species Admiral Kethvar stood before the massive holographic display in the Dominion Council chambers, his four arms gesturing dismissively at the small blue planet rotating slowly in the center of the room. The other council, members representatives from 12 different species across the galaxy, watched with varying degrees of interest as he presented his assessment. "Honored Council," Kethvar began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered. 17 star systems. I present to you the third planet of the Sol system. The inhabitants call it Earth. His reptilian features showed clear disdain as he manipulated the hologram to show various human settlements. After 3 months of observation, I can confidently state that this species poses no threat to our expansion plans. Commander Vexithala, a mantis-like being from the Kithara collective, clicked her mandibles together in what passed for laughter among her kind. "Admiral, surely you jest. Any species capable of achieving interplanetary travel deserves some consideration." "That is precisely my point," Kethvar replied, his golden eyes gleaming. "They have barely managed to establish a few primitive outposts on their moon and the fourth planet. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They still use chemical propulsion for space travel and primitive nuclear energy for power." The hologram shifted to show Earth's political map, a patchwork of different colors representing various nations. "More importantly," the Admiral continued, "they are hopelessly divided. Over 200 separate political entities constantly in conflict with each other. They waste enormous resources on internal conflicts instead of advancing their civilization." Elder Thon of the crystalline Velnari gestured with one of his geometric appendages. "Division can sometimes mask strength, Admiral. Have you considered that their conflicts might have made them more adaptable?" Kethvar's laugh was harsh. "Adaptable? Elder Thon, their military forces still rely on projectile weapons and crude explosives. Their largest ships carry fewer than 10,000 crew members. A single Dominion dreadnought could pacify their entire world in days." He paused, letting this sink in. "No, Honored Council. Earth represents nothing more than a minor inconvenience. We should focus our expansion efforts on species that might actually challenge us." Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the impossible readings on her monitors. The Arecibo array had detected them first. Massive ships appearing and disappearing at the edge of the solar system. Ships that defied every law of physics she understood. For 3 months, she had been quietly building a network of scientists, military personnel, and government officials who knew the truth. Humanity was being watched. "Sarah, the latest spectral analysis is complete," called Dr. James Park from across the hidden laboratory. "The energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. These ships are using technology we can't even theorize about." Sarah rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working 18-hour days since the first detection, coordinating with scientists across the globe while maintaining absolute secrecy. "How many governments have agreed to Protocol 7? 17 so far," replied General Patricia Hayes, walking into the lab with a secure tablet. "The Russians were the last holdouts, but even they can't ignore these readings. For the first time in human history, we have every major power working together on a single project." Protocol 7 had been a theoretical framework developed during the Cold War, a plan for global cooperation in case of extraterrestrial contact. It had gathered dust for decades, considered by most to be science fiction. Now it was humanity's lifeline. "The question remains," Sarah said, pulling up a tactical display. "What do they want? They've made no attempt to communicate, and their observation patterns suggest they're conducting some kind of assessment." General Hayes nodded grimly. "Our intelligence suggests they're not just watching us. There have been similar reports from 12 other star systems over the past century. Each one was followed by the complete disappearance of the indigenous species. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of computers." Sarah had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed sent chills down her spine. "Then we need to accelerate the timeline. How's Project Prometheus coming along?" "Better than expected," Dr. Park replied, his voice gaining excitement despite the grim circumstances. When you force every nation's top scientists to work together, amazing things happen. The Chinese quantum computing team combined with the American Materials Science Group has produced results we couldn't have achieved alone. The Europeans' energy research merged with the Japanese robotics division is yielding incredible advances. General Hayes pulled up classified files on her tablet. The military side is equally impressive. Former enemies are sharing technologies and strategies that were state secrets just months ago. The Israeli cyber warfare specialists working with the Russian tactical teams have created defensive systems none of us could have imagined individually. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained worried. It might not be enough. Based on our observations, their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. We're essentially preparing stone tools to fight laser cannons. Maybe, said a new voice from the laboratory entrance. Marcus Steele walked in, still wearing his oil-stained engineer's coveralls from the construction site above. But they don't know about the stone tools yet? Marcus was an odd addition to their group, a former military engineer who had spent the last decade designing civilian infrastructure, but his unconventional thinking had proven invaluable in developing humanity's response strategy. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Think about it, Marcus continued, grabbing a marker and moving to the whiteboard. They've been watching us for months, right? Learning our capabilities, studying our technology, they probably know exactly what our most advanced weapons can do. He drew a simple diagram showing Earth surrounded by observation posts. But what if they're only seeing what we want them to see? General Hayes leaned forward, intrigued. You're suggesting we've been hiding our true capabilities? Not exactly, Marcus replied with a slight smile. I'm suggesting we've been accidentally hiding our true capabilities. They're watching our public technology, our commercial satellites, our published military hardware, our civilian infrastructure. But they're missing something crucial. Which is? Dr. Park asked. They're missing the fact that humans don't just adapt to challenges. We prepare for challenges that haven't happened yet. Every major power on Earth has black projects, theoretical weapons, and experimental technologies that never see the light of day. Things we build just in case. Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. The strategic reserves, the contingency plans, the technologies we developed but never deployed. Exactly, Marcus nodded. And now, for the first time in history, we're combining all of those secrets into a single coordinated effort. They think they're observing a primitive, divided species. They have no idea that we've been preparing for them our entire existence. Back in the Dominion Council chambers, Admiral Kethvar was concluding his presentation. In summary, Honored Council, Earth poses no threat to our expansion. I recommend we bypass their system entirely and focus on more challenging conquests. The Andorian Federation would provide a much more interesting campaign. Your assessment is noted, Admiral, replied the council speaker, a being of pure energy, contained within a crystalline matrix. However, the Velnari Mining Consortium has requested permission to extract resources from the outer planets of the Sol system. Their preliminary surveys indicate significant deposits of rare minerals. Kethvar shrugged with all four arms. That should pose no problem. The humans barely venture beyond their own planet. A simple mining operation shouldn't even register on their primitive sensors. Very well, the speaker announced. The Council approves limited mining operations in the Sol system. Admiral Kethvar, you will provide minimal escort protection for the mining vessels. Consider it a training exercise for your junior officers. 3 weeks later, the Velnari mining ship Prosperity's Edge was systematically stripping asteroids in the outer Sol system when its automated systems detected an unusual energy signature. The ship's AI, following standard protocols, investigated the source, a small research station hidden in Saturn's rings. Commander Zeltan, the mining ship's captain, barely glanced at the tactical display when his weapons officer reported the contact. Probably some primitive probe, he muttered. Destroy it and continue operations. The research station, manned by 6 human scientists studying Saturn's magnetic field, was vaporized instantly by a single plasma blast. To the aliens, it was a minor obstacle removed. To humanity's monitoring systems, It was an act of war. Doctor. Sarah Chen received the alert in her underground laboratory at 0347 hours. The automated distress beacon from Research Station Cassini had transmitted for exactly 2.3 seconds before being cut off. The quantum entanglement communication system they had installed showed the station's complete destruction. "This is it," she said quietly to the assembled team. "They've made the first move." General Hayes was already on secure communications with military commands across the globe. "All units, this is Prometheus Command. Protocol 7 is now active. Repeat, Protocol 7 is active." Across the world, hidden facilities began powering up systems that had been waiting in the shadows for decades. In the Nevada desert, experimental aircraft that officially didn't exist began their final preparations. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, submarines carrying impossible technologies started their journey toward predetermined positions. In orbit, satellites that had been masquerading as civilian communications equipment began revealing their true nature. Marcus Steele stood at the master control panel, his hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. "Sarah, are you sure about this? Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back." "They killed our people," Sarah replied, her voice hard as steel. "They destroyed a civilian research station without warning, without communication, without even acknowledging our existence. They think we're insects, to be stepped on." "Then it's time to show them," General Hayes said, her finger hovering over the activation switch. "What happens when you underestimate the human race?" As the switch was thrown, signals raced across Earth at the speed of light. In hidden facilities from the Arctic to Antarctica, in underwater bases and orbital platforms, humanity's true face began to emerge from the shadows. Technologies that had been theoretical became operational. Weapons that had existed only in classified documents powered up for the first time. Alliance agreements that had been negotiated in secret were activated. For the first time in human history, every major power on Earth was working toward a single goal: survival. In space, Admiral Kethvar received an urgent communication from the mining vessel. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the third planet. The locals appear to be activating some kind of planetary defense grid." Kethvar laughed, the sound echoing through his flagship's bridge. "Commander, Zeltan, you're seeing sensor ghosts. The humans don't have the technology for planetary defense grids. Continue your mining operations." But deep in Earth's gravity well, Marcus Steele was smiling as he watched the readouts from their first activation test. Hidden facilities across 6 continents had just synchronized their power outputs with atomic precision. Orbital platforms had established quantum communication links that couldn't be detected or intercepted. Most importantly, every human military force on the planet was now operating under unified command for the first time in history. "Phase 1 complete," he announced to the control room. "They still think we're primitive. Let's keep it that way, until Phase 2. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a significant difference between being weak and being underestimated. Humanity had spent their entire existence preparing for threats they couldn't yet imagine. Now one of those threats had finally arrived, and the aliens had made the fatal mistake of announcing their presence before understanding what they were truly facing. The human factor Admiral Kethvar was reviewing routine mining reports when the first impossible thing happened. His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Kelthmar, approached with obvious confusion. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Sol system. It appears to be directed at us specifically." Kethvar looked up from his datapad, mildly annoyed. "That's impossible. The humans don't have the technology for interstellar communications. You're probably picking up their primitive radio broadcasts." "No, sir," Kelthmar replied, his voice uncertain. "This is a directed quantum transmission on our command frequency. They're requesting immediate communication with our fleet commander." The bridge fell silent. Quantum communication required technology that, according to their intelligence, was beyond human capability by several thousand years. Either their assessment was catastrophically wrong, or someone else was in the Sol system. "Put it through," Kethvar ordered, his confidence wavering slightly. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. She looked directly at the camera, with calm, intelligent eyes. "I am General Patricia Hayes of the United Earth Defense Command," she began, her voice steady and professional. "3 weeks ago, your forces destroyed a civilian research station, killing 6 scientists. We demand an immediate explanation and restitution for this unprovoked attack." Kethvar stared at the screen in shock. Not only were the humans capable of interstellar communication, but they had somehow detected the mining operation and tracked it back to his fleet. More disturbing still, they were speaking as if they represented a unified government, something his intelligence clearly stated did not exist. "This is Admiral Kethvar of the Dominion Fleet," he replied, trying to regain his composure. "You will explain how you obtained our communication frequencies and why you believe you have the authority to make demands of the Galactic Dominion." General Hayes smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, we've been monitoring your ships for 3 months. We know your fleet composition, your technology base, and your standard operating procedures. As for authority, we represent every government on Earth in this matter. When threatened with extinction, humans tend to work together remarkably well." Before Kethvar could respond, his sensor officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, multiple contacts appearing throughout the system. I'm reading at least 30 vessels of unknown configuration." The tactical display lit up with red dots as human ships seemingly materialized from nowhere. They had been hiding in the electromagnetic shadows of planets, concealed within asteroid fields, masked by solar radiation. Kethvar realized with growing horror that his fleet had been completely surrounded without his knowledge. "How is this possible?" he whispered, then raised his voice. "Human, your species barely has the capability for interplanetary travel. These ships are impossible." General Hayes's smile widened. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that many of humanity's enemies have made throughout history. You confused keeping quiet with being weak. We've had interstellar capability for over 50 years. We've simply chosen not to advertise the fact." Marcus Steele stood in the command center deep beneath Colorado, watching the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Operation Lazarus was proceeding exactly as planned. All around him, technicians and officers from a dozen different nations worked together with the precision of a single organism. "Marcus, the fleet reports all ships in position," announced Dr. Sarah Chen from her coordination station. "The aliens still haven't detected our orbital platforms." "Good," Marcus replied. "Admiral Kethvar is about to get his first real look at human ingenuity." On the main screen, they could see the alien admiral's flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed any ship in Earth's public fleet. Its weapons could level cities, its shields could withstand nuclear weapons, and its technology was thousands of years ahead of anything in humanity's official arsenal. It was also exactly what they had been preparing to fight for the past 60 years. "Dr. Chen, initiate the demonstration," Marcus ordered. In space, one of the human vessels, a sleek ship that bore no resemblance to any known Earth technology, moved toward the alien flagship. To Admiral Kethavar's sensors, it appeared to be some kind of destroyer, barely a tenth the size of his dreadnought. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, "the human vessel is approaching at high speed. Should we destroy it?" "Not yet," Kethavar replied, studying the tactical readings. "I want to see what they think they can accomplish. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields." The human ship suddenly stopped dead in space, impossibly violating every law of momentum. Then it did something that made every alien on the bridge stare in disbelief. It folded in half. The destroyer split down the middle, revealing that it was not one ship, but dozens of smaller vessels that had been locked together in perfect formation. Each component immediately took a different vector, moving with impossible precision in a three-dimensional dance around the alien flagship. What are they doing?" whispered Commander Vexithala, who had joined the fleet to observe what was supposed to be a simple mining operation. Her question was answered when the human vessels began to emit a coordinated energy pulse. Individually, each pulse was barely detectable. Combined, they created a resonance frequency that bypassed the flagship's shields entirely and overloaded non-critical systems throughout the ship. The lights on Kethvar's bridge flickered as secondary systems shut down. The artificial gravity fluctuated. Most alarmingly, the quantum communicator went offline, cutting them off from the rest of the Dominion fleet. How did they know our shield frequency? Kethvar demanded. On Earth, Marcus Steele was asking himself the same question, but from a different perspective. How did we get so lucky that they used the same basic shield technology we theorized about 30 years ago? Dr. Park looked up from his analysis station. Marcus, I don't think it's luck. Look at the patterns in their ship design, their formation, tactics, their weapon signatures. Everything follows logical engineering principles. They've optimized their technology, but they've optimized it the same way we would have. You're saying they're predictable? I'm saying they're efficient, Dr. Park replied, which is not the same thing as adaptable. They've found solutions that work, and they've stuck with them. But we've had to be adaptable our entire existence. We've never had the luxury of assuming our solutions would always work. Back in space, Admiral Kethvar was learning this lesson the hard way. All ships converge on the human vessels. Standard attack formation. His fleet moved with mechanical precision, each ship taking its designated position in a formation that had been refined over centuries of conquest. It was a formation designed to maximize firepower while providing mutual protection, a formation that had never failed against any enemy. The human ships scattered like leaves in the wind. Instead of meeting the alien formation head-on, they broke into seemingly random patterns. Some ships dove down relative to the galactic plane, others spiraled around the alien vessels, and still others simply vanished from sensors entirely. Where did they go? Kethvar shouted. Unknown, Admiral, his sensor officer replied, panic creeping into his voice. They appear to be using some kind of stealth technology that our sensors can't penetrate. What the aliens didn't understand was that the human ships weren't using advanced stealth technology. They were using advanced knowledge of alien sensor systems. For 3 months, Dr. Chen's team had been analyzing every scanning pulse, every communication signal, every energy signature from the alien fleet. They knew exactly how the alien sensors worked, which meant they knew exactly how to avoid them. The first alien ship to be destroyed was the mining vessel Prosperity's Edge. It simply exploded without warning, its hull integrity failing catastrophically when human ships materialized inside its shield perimeter and fired concentrated bursts at structural weak points that shouldn't have existed. But they did exist, because humans had been studying alien ship design for months and had identified flaws that the aliens themselves had never noticed. Admiral, Commander Vexithala called out as her own ship came under attack. They're targeting our structural support junctions. How do they know where our weak points are? The answer was Marcus Steele, standing in his underground command center with a smile that would have terrified the aliens if they could have seen it. Because, he said to his assembled team, we've been preparing for this fight since before we knew you existed. Every science fiction story, every military simulation, every theoretical weapon design, we've been imagining how to fight superior technology for generations. On the tactical display, human ships were systematically dismantling the alien fleet, using tactics that should have been impossible. They fought like a swarm intelligence, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship was and what it was doing. They attacked from directions that didn't exist in three-dimensional space, using gravitational slingshots and solar radiation pressure to achieve impossible vectors. Most importantly, they fought like they didn't care if they died. Admiral, his communications officer reported with a shaking voice, we're receiving another transmission from the human commander. General Hayes appeared on the screen again, but this time she was speaking from the bridge of one of the human ships actively engaged in combat. Behind her, the crew worked with calm efficiency while explosions lit up the space around them. Admiral Kethvar, she said calmly, you came to our system expecting to find a primitive, divided species. You found instead a unified civilization that has spent its entire existence preparing for threats we couldn't yet imagine. You killed our people without warning or provocation. Now you're learning why that was a mistake. Your technology is impossible, Kethvar shouted back. Your intelligence report stated you were centuries behind us. Our intelligence reports, General Hayes replied with that same cold smile, stated exactly what we wanted them to state. Admiral, you made the fundamental error of assuming that just because we hadn't left our solar system, we hadn't been preparing to defend it. Marcus Steele watched the battle unfold with professional satisfaction. Operation Lazarus had been based on a simple premise. What if humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, but their paranoia? What if their tendency to prepare for every possible threat, no matter how unlikely, was actually an evolutionary advantage? Status report, he called out. 7 alien vessels destroyed, 3 disabled, 2 retreating toward the outer system, reported the tactical coordinator. Human losses, 2 ships damaged, 0 casualties. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Chen. Because, Marcus replied, we've been practicing this battle for 60 years in simulation. Every possible scenario, every tactical variation, every way the aliens might respond. We've run this battle 10,000 times in computer models. This is the first time they've fought humans. Admiral Kethvar found himself in an impossible position. His technologically superior fleet was being systematically destroyed by ships that shouldn't exist, using tactics that defied military logic, deployed by a species that was supposed to be primitive. Commander Vexathala, he called out. Retreat to minimum safe distance. Signal the high command. Tell them. He paused, struggling with words that would end his career. Tell them we were wrong about the humans. But Commander Vexathala wasn't listening. She was staring at her sensor displays in fascination rather than fear. Admiral, she said slowly, I don't think they're trying to destroy us. What? Look at the attack patterns. Every ship they've destroyed was a military vessel or mining ship. They've avoided targeting life support systems or escape pods, and they're maintaining formation around us. They're not pressing their advantage. Kethvar studied the tactical display and realized she was right. The human ships had completely surrounded his remaining fleet, but they weren't moving in for the kill. Instead, they were simply waiting. General Hayes's voice came through the communicator again. Admiral, you're correct that we could destroy your remaining ships. Instead, we're offering you a choice. Leave our system immediately and never return, or we'll demonstrate why picking a fight with humanity is a very bad idea. You're letting us go? Kethvar asked, confused. We're giving you the chance to leave with your lives, Hayes replied. Take it. Marcus Steele nodded with satisfaction as he watched the alien fleet slowly retreat toward the edge of the solar system. Phase 3 complete. Dr. Chen, activate the beacon. Across the galaxy, every major civilization received the same message simultaneously. A quantum broadcast that penetrated every defense, reached every communication network, and delivered a simple statement. This is Earth. We are not as primitive as we appear. We are not as divided as you think. We are not as weak as you assume. Test us at your own risk. The message was followed by tactical data from the battle, specifications of human technology, recordings of their coordination, and most importantly, evidence that they had been preparing for galactic contact while maintaining the fiction of being a primitive species. Within days, the story spread throughout the galaxy. The species that had been dismissed as irrelevant had just handed the Dominion fleet its first defeat in 3 centuries. More disturbing to galactic powers, they had done it while barely revealing their true capabilities. Admiral Kethvar, stripped of his command and facing a military tribunal, could only repeat what he told the high command. We were wrong about everything. The humans aren't just another species to be conquered. They're something we've never encountered before. A species that prepares for wars they haven't fought yet, against enemies they haven't met yet, using strategies they've never tested yet. And they're very, very good at it. Marcus Steele became known throughout the galaxy as the human who had planned the impossible victory. But when reporters asked him about it, he just smiled and said, We didn't plan this battle. We've been planning every possible battle for our entire existence. This one just happened to be the one they brought us. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species paranoid enough to prepare for threats that don't exist yet. Because eventually those threats do exist, and when they do, humanity will be ready.